Right. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming along today. Appreciate both guys taking their time out of their schedule to come down. As you know, they're fighting a week on Saturday at Wembley Arena, fireworks night. So, a bit of a cliche, but in the ring, these two guys are going to produce the fireworks. Paul Smith, this is a big opportunity for him to beat the man who beat him, James DeGale. So for Paul, he's looking to reclaim his title, and he'll look to go on to bigger opportunities. The man on the right, George Groves, for him it's a big night as well. It's his first fight with Frank Warren under our banner. So for George, since beating James DeGale, he's looking to go on to bigger and better things as well. So it's all on the line for both guys on the night, and they're looking to impress and put on a good show. And I'm sure you've seen these guys fight before, and you know it's just going to be locking horns in the middle of the ring, and it's going to be explosive. So we're looking to both guys for a big fight for the fans. I'll introduce the top table. You know the guys: Adam Booth, trainer and manager of George; Joe Gallagher, trainer of Paul Smith. So I'll ask the guys to say a few words before we open the floor for questions. So, Adam,
George,
I'll start then.
go on then.
Well, don't think there's any need for trash talking in this fight. Done plenty of that in my last fight. I think Paul's done quite a bit of it in his past as well. And for me, just let the fist do the talking in this fight. It's a fight fans fight. It's going to be a great, it's going to be a great fight. Hopefully, I can say fight again, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Nothing, Adam.
this is one of those fights where everybody wants something to happen at a press conference. Everyone wants to see something like the trash talking that was coming out last time from the other fella. But this is one of those situations where you don't need to say anything. All you've got to do is turn up and tune in on November the 5th, and you'll get all the entertainment that you're looking for.
Joe?
Now, I'm going to say Paul Smith's going into this into when what he'd say the shape of his career. He's training extremely hard. He knows some people would say he's in the last chance saloon, and he's got to take his opportunity with both hands. It's ironic, like George said there, Friday night, it is got to be a Friday night, and it will be for George, and that's not being disrespectful, but this is Paul's big opportunity, and Paul will be the biggest banger that goes off on Bonfire night in Wembley, and the explosion will be loud and clear all over Britain, and it'll be a good fight, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure it's got to give the fans what they've got to tune in and see. You've got George Groves there, whose last performance, I don't know how he's done it reading it here, he beat himself over, beat himself over 12 on points, looking at that there, Richard. But like I say, he's a good fighter, he's only had 13 fights, and when you look at the 13 fights and what he's achieved in his career, compared to what people call, look at what the Olympians are doing as well, he's very good. He's got a solid amateur pedigree, he's boxed all over the world as an amateur sometimes, and also, like I say, where he's done as a pro, he's travelled, America, Germany, so he's got a bit of an old head on young shoulders, George Groves, for this fight, but there's a few things that we've seen in the makeup of him, and hopefully we'll be able to exploit them on the night, and it isn't as clear cut as what some people are intending it to be.
Paul?
This fight's just full of cliches, understatements, and everything else. It's just we'd be here all day talking about it. I really can't wait to get in the ring. I've trained really hard. I've trained the best I've ever trained. I've had the best camp I've ever had. Again, another cliche. It's full of them. We'll be here all day. It's going to be a great fight. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be explosive. And the fans are the winners, in my opinion. They're going to tune in on Box Nation and see a great fight, and they're going to turn up to Wembley and have a great night with our great fight, and with the main event as well, with Katsidis and Burns, which I think is going to be another good dust-up.
Lovely. All right, let's open it up.
Well, just look at George's record, 13 fights, you've been fighting championship fights over about, 10 fights. In an ideal world, Adam, he shouldn't really be fighting championship fights, should he, after with his limited pro experience?
I don't disagree with that statement. If you take titles away, and boxers just boxed, and that you had competitive matches, it's taking fights that are competitive fights that give elements of risk that improve fighters. Everybody agrees that if you just take touches all the time, you're never going to be stressed, you're never going to strive to improve, you never have to improve, because you're never going to have faults exposed. When George fought Kenny Anderson, he made some horrific mistakes and they got exposed. But it's because of that he goes away and licks his ego and improves himself as a fighter. If there were no titles at stake now, and we were talking about a 10-round fight, I firmly believe that Paul Smith is the right fight for George now, because it's the fight that carries elements of risk. It's a fight that's going to test George to do things that he hasn't had to do so far in his pro career. We believe we've prepared immaculately for this. That George is still developing as a fighter, but our ambition is for George to become a world-class fighter. At the age of 23, that's not too young to start taking these fights and to start taking these risks and these challenges. If you look back through history and you look at the fighters who have gone on to be good world champions, they're all knocking on world level at the age of 23. You know, as Paul was saying, cliche after cliche, to say someone's too young or too inexperienced is actually the wrong thing to say. It's whether they're good enough. And they only prove they're good enough by taking the fights and winning the fights and coming through the tests. And that's what George has wanted to do from day one. It's why we made the Paul Samuels fight in his second fight. It's why we made Adamu. It's why we made the Kenny Anderson fight. And it's why we were happy and confident for George to take on James as well. And it's the same here. Now Paul, on the other hand, brings things to this fight that George doesn't have. You're 31 now, 31 now, Paul.
29.
Oh, was it? Shit, fuck.
He looks 31.
That's a bad paper now.
Is that? But whichever way you look at it, Paul's got a lot more experience in professional fighting than George. I believe that he's a better fighter now since the man that fought James DeGale for a number of reasons. Because in the DeGale fight, that was really just a question of styles again. And James just gave Paul issues that he hadn't seen before in the ring. But at the end of the fight, Paul wasn't a broken man. It wasn't like he'd had fight knocked out of him. He was getting caught and just couldn't do something about it at the time. Since then, he's moved to Joe. Joe lives and breathes it. He's passionate about his fight, as you can see he is. Just loves talking boxing, can't stop talking boxing. You can see he loves his fighters. So he's going to be getting the attention that he needs to bring out the best in him. He's going to be a better fighter for the experiences he had, including the James loss, because I think that fight's made him a better fighter. And of course, he knows now that this is his opportunity to get back where he feels that he wants to be and he wants to belong. And that type of man, we believe, is going to bring out the best in George Groves. And putting those facts together, you're going to get one hell of a fight on November the 5th.
Thanks for answering the question. Paul,
Yes or no, we're done.
may think I'm a bit crazy, but you think there's less pressure on the 5th of November fighting in London than there was in your last, when you lost to the guy up in Liverpool? Because I noticed that your brother, the other night, when he got beat by Selby, you seem to try too hard in front of those, shall we say, vociferous fans of yours.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that in the past a lot of times, trying too hard to impress him. It's all, again, part and parcel of fighting at home, fighting in front of passionate fans, which I love and I wouldn't really change, but being away from home, the pressure's not on me in this fight. I'm the underdog, I'm the challenger. I'm not expected to win. So
yeah, but it'd be more pressure if it was in Liverpool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be a lot more pressure if it was in Liverpool, but I like that pressure that was onto me. I'd be a liar and I'd be contradicting myself now if I said I didn't like it, because I always have loved it in the past, and it's something that I do relish, fighting in front of my own fans. They're great, in my opinion, the best fans in the world. But this is business. This is a job. It's what I do for a living. It's work, and it's a chance and an opportunity, and a massive opportunity, and one that I'm 100% confident to take.
Paul, how hard was the DeGale loss for you to get over? How long did it get you?
I'm still getting over it now. Tell me if you point out a fighter who gets over a loss like that, who loses his titles and gets on with it the next 5 minutes, they shouldn't be in the game. They shouldn't be involved in it. They're not passionate enough, in my opinion. If James DeGale's over losing to George Groves already, then there's something wrong with him. I know European title may help, but if that doesn't still sting, then there's something wrong with him. know, when you ask any fighter that, they'll tell you the same thing. But you know, the loss has made me a better fighter. It's made me a lot more hungry. It's made me switched on a lot more. It made me change and make the best change I've made in my career so far, in my opinion, to Joe. And I'm learning again now, and I'm improving a lot as a fighter, you know. And I am only 29, and I am still young enough to learn things, and that's what I'm doing.
I wouldn't say it's a case of Paul learning things, it's reminding him of things that he was good at. You've got to remember Paul Smith was a world-class amateur, silver medal at the Commonwealth Games, lost to Pascal by 1 point, fought Durrell as an amateur, lost to him by 2 points, been on the Contender Series, fought world-class fighters and that. So he's been around, and Paul just needs reminding, and like a lot of pros we've seen with Macklin there, they just need reminding what they were good at and why there was a buzz about them, and I think that's what we've done with Paul Smith. I've joked in the gym, and he's been called Rocky in the gym, as in Rocky 3. He lost to Mr. T, but this is the rematch. He's coming back. He's coming back fitter, sharper, stronger, hungrier, and he's got the eye of the tiger for this fight. And I think on the night, I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. But like I said, George Groves is a young kid, a bit of old head and shoulders. He's been in around the big stage a few times now, not just as a fighter, but in around the David Haye camp. So he's got that mentality, but I still do feel the pair of them, when they get in the ring the night, I still think George does suffer a little bit still with the nerves, and that's most probably something we'll take care of on the night with.
George, how do you respond to that about the nerves? The nerves thing's an issue for you?
I'm not a nervous person. I went into my last fight with as much pressure as a fighter could have. I think everyone had ripped me off. No one gave me a chance to win that fight. It was in my hometown again, against my arch rival, pay-per-view. It was huge, and I dealt with it. I dealt with it better than the man in front of me, and I dealt with it probably better than most fighters would. Some sort of nerves will bring the best out in a fighter, because it keeps them switched on, it keeps them focused. It means that they care about what they do. But I've never got in the ring and nerves have took away from my performance, made me perform worse. It's only ever made me perform better. And yeah, of course, I'll have a tiny bit of nerves next week, but as I say, it'll only make me a better fighter.
George, it's his first fight at Wembley Arena as a pro. It's important for you to put on a show for your home crowd.
What do you mean? Like last time when I boxed in London, I didn't. So.
This is nearer.
Yeah, of course. I think it's important for me to win the fight. I think my fans will go home happy when I go home with my belts. And however this fight ends up, me winning is going to be a good fight. I know that. I know it's going to be a good fight, and the fans are going to be happy. I'm excited and thrilled and chuffed to be boxing in London again, and as well as a lot of my friends and family who are coming. So I'm looking forward to putting on a good show for them.
Adam, would you say the fights that you picked out, like Kenny Anderson and DeGale, that each time you're stretching, George?
Oh yeah, a lot, and not just in the fights, but in the preparation that he's had to do for the fights as well. A lot of guys with ability and desire and hunger can also suffer with complacency sometimes, and I don't want to kill George's enthusiasm, potential, and desire by firstly making him fights that don't stress him. But then there's a balance as well to not overstress. And I believe that the James fight was never going to be a physically hard fight, because we knew that James was overrated and loaded up too much. But James has just got this style that can be so awkward for 99% of the people that he fights. But we knew that George had the ability to do what he had to do to win this fight. This fight is totally opposite. This is the fight where George is going to get tested physically and mentally, and is prepared for both, because ultimately the reason why they're both here is that way back when they were kids, they both chose to be fighters. They both wanted to box, which meant they both wanted to get in the ring and trade punches with another man and test their skills and wit against that man. And now George has got the opportunity to enjoy that and indulge that part of his desire.
So any further questions? Top table.
Do you think Paul will be a tougher fight for you physically than the DeGale was?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as Adam says, DeGale wasn't physically a challenge. It was a mental challenge. It was about staying, focused, concentrating, sticking to a game plan, sticking to a style of fighting that I can do, but not necessarily what's inside me, what I crave to do. Adam said to me at the beginning of this camp, I'm allowed to punch with spite and venom and be spiteful and be the fighter that I like to be. So this is going to be a real fight. Smith's a strong fighter, he's an experienced fighter. He's been super middleweight for a long time now, so we've prepared for a fight, and that's what we expect.
I'll just say something as well. James DeGale doesn't know how to close the distance. He can't. He just walks into distance sometimes once he's confused people. Paul, I think, has always been naturally a decent pressure fighter, and he's a strong fella as well. And Joe's training ethos. If you look at Joe's fighters, he likes his fighters to apply pressure, and his fighters know how to get close and know how to do different things when they get close as well. So if you combine Joe and Paul together, and as Joe said, reminding Paul of what he's always known, Paul is a good pressure fighter. So that's where we've had George learning how, because if you want to get to world level and you want to be the best fighter you can be, you've got to be able to deal with every style. He dealt with a fiddly, awkward style in his last fight. In this fight, he's got to deal with someone who's more experienced than him at fighting on the inside. But again, that's why he's here. He loves to do it.
I think if trying to sum up what you said, George, that it was a means to an end to beat DeGale, but you didn't necessarily enjoy boxing in that way. You preferred to box a far more aggressive way.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that James DeGale
night,
but naturally, I like to throw punches in bunches. I like to, get stuck in, as it were. Paul knows that he can't box along with me. He'll get murdered if he tries to box along with me. So he's going to try and close the distance, as Adam says. He's going to try and squeeze me, pressure me, because boxing long just won't work for him. He's going to have to just drag me into a fight, and that's what we've prepared for. So if that happens, he's still going to come up short.
Why do you think we haven't seen the best of you? I mean, it's been a long time now since the Commonwealth Games, and you sort of produce one good performance and then you seem to tail off a little.
I don't know, it's just excuses, isn't it? Excuses like arseholes, and everyone's got one. They all stink. There's no point in just going on about it. I've had plenty of bad nights, I've had plenty of off nights, and it's always been with being too eager and trying to impress. And if I'm too eager to impress, I'll take that all day rather than getting in there and not being interested and not trying to impress and not trying to win. I had an attitude of win by any means possible, and half the time that would lead to stinkers in my fights, but I got the wins most of the time. The one time where I really wanted to win and it didn't come off, and I had the worst night of my life was obviously the last loss I had when I lost my title. But every other time, it was just win first, look good second. And I always had that attitude. Now it's a lot more professional. Now I want to go in, stick to a game plan, do a job, and do a number and win a fight, and it's working in the gym.